Joining us once again in the studio here on Monday morning, Representative Dave Maturen. Good morning, Dave.
Morning. It's a good day in the 63rd District.
Yes, sir. So, of course, roads, the big story over the last week, and we'll certainly talk about that. You were among those that got to preview the 94th Sprinkle Road work that's now done, right? Or they're pretty close to it.
Yeah, they're pretty much finishing it up. Had a nice little ceremony yesterday, and I think it's really going to improve the whole traffic pattern in that intersection and make it a lot easier for everybody trying to get up that hill, especially in the wintertime. Had to stop at the traffic light and then try to make it up the hill, and trucks having problems. So I think this is going to make a nice, smooth flow through basically one of the major arteries getting across I-94 from Kalamazoo down to the Portage area.
And a lot of us travel over that way and use that, and might be a little frightened about roundabouts or rotaries or whatever you like to call them, but you just get used to it, and it works out fine. And you've seen that in Kalamazoo County. It's actually worked out fine in some other places.
Yeah, it's worked out fine. I know the folks in Matawan had some hesitation about how that was going to work out, but I think most of the people there find it a very nice way to get across I-94 from one side of Matawan to the other.
So just get in that right lane and stay there until you're ready to exit. That's the easiest way to do it.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. All right, so speaking of roads, this roads deal is kind of interesting because we were led to believe something was coming, and then tempers flared or something, and the governor told us last week, yeah, we just called a timeout, cool everybody off, and the words were still sort of floating in the air, and boom, we had a deal.
Well, yeah, there was a cooling off period, and I think the House leadership came back with a plan that was moving us more towards what the Senate and the governor were looking at. It was a compromise. You can tell from the vote on our side that everybody on our side wasn't happy with it, but we got enough votes to put it through, and I think it's a pretty reasonable compromise, especially coming from where we were initially, which was 95% of revenue coming from existing general fund. Now it's about 50-50.
Okay, we'll talk more about that and what was able to make it happen. We'll come back in just a minute with Representative Dave Maturen, 813 WBCK. 15 WBCK, Representative Dave Maturen is back with us here with a legislative update on Monday morning. So let's talk about what made the difference here that could let cooler heads prevail and pass this.
Well, I wasn't privy to all the conversations, obviously, between Speaker Cotter and Majority Leader Meekhoff and the governor. But, I think we felt the necessity. The people during last May said, we don't like this Christmas tree you gave us. We want you folks to fix the roads. It's your job. And, I think it's our job to govern. And I think the House showed that in, again, coming up with a 50-50 plan that basically concentrated on roads only. There's no other spending issues in there like there were with Proposal 1.
So, of course, not everybody likes this, and you, as you alluded, some Republicans don't like it. Democrats really don't like it. Why? What were some of the sticking points?
Well, I think it's a matter of trying to get enough folks there was still folks that don't want any tax increase at all. There were other folks that wanted all the revenue to come from new money. And, this is kind of in between. It's kind of like, politics is the art of possible. And in this case, our caucus got together and compromised on a plan that we gave to our speaker to take to the Senate and the governor, and we'll kind of see what they do with it.
So is the expectation then this will still get revised with whatever the Senate comes up with?
I can't speak for the Senate. It's pretty hard to tell. I mean, they had an 400 plan, 800 million in new revenue, 400 from existing. We're close to that with 600. It's going to be up again to the other two parties on this three-legged stool of road funding to get together and decide, is this a good enough plan to go with it, and then with the Senate, and then present it to the governor, or in fact, do they tweak it a little bit more and send it back to us?
So, do we have a timeline on when that might happen?
I don't really know. I think folks want to strike while the iron's hot. The issues up front, present. I think we really want to get this. The House wants to get this done this fall, and now's a good time as any to get this package sealed and move on to other issues that we have.
So as we see this House plan right now, which may end up getting tweaked, but as it stands now, this plan here is as the governor said it probably would be. That is to say, it focuses on a number of things, including a hike in registration fees, which won't happen right away, will it?
Right. That's going to take, well, that'll take effect in fiscal year 17. So, and the actual the gas tax increase is going to take effect the next year in fiscal year 18. So the whole plan gets phased in.
So what was the thought behind that? Why not just make it happen now?
Yeah, I wasn't part of the negotiations. I think they wanted to kind of let folks get acclimated to it. That's just my own impression.
Got it.
But all I know is this is what we got presented to us as what our leadership thinks is a possible package to get enough votes to put it through, and that's kind of where it is right now.
Mm-hmm. So. And of course, as that happens, the governor leaves office, and maybe some of you will leave office. And are we going to hear people in years from now, future legislators, saying, well, this is what we got stuck with?
Well, we really can't bind the next legislative body to it. So,
right.
But the final plan, the final impact, the $1.2 billion, really doesn't come through till fiscal year 2021, when virtually everybody that's there now will not be around, or they might be around as a senator, but they
right.
certainly won't be around then. So, but it's up to future bodies. Everything we're doing is statutory; none of it's constitutional. But all of it is tie-barred. So every single one of these bills, except for the potential income tax reduction, is tie-barred. So they all have to pass, or none of them pass.
So if this doesn't take effect for a couple of years, then that means that money doesn't trickle down to the road departments for that amount of time at least.
There's not going to be a direct infusion of $1.2 billion next year. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. So we just keep trucking along as we are until then, but there's some relief in sight.
I think so, yeah. And there was some concern earlier this year with Proposal 1 that are we really geared up to take $1.2 billion in road funding and put it on the roads right now. So in fact, that was they were going to pay down $800 million in existing bonds from the Engler administration. So only $400 million out of that Prop 1 was going to go into roads anyway. So we're kind of along with that.
Well, and so the thought is too, if you're practical about it, there would be some planning involved. If we take MDOT, for example, they now, presumably if this passes the way it is or close to it, they now have a notion for what they can plan for.
Exactly, right. And it kind of puts everything into motion. And so there's an ability to say, okay, here's the income stream coming. What can we do? I mean, you can't just drop all this all at once and just scatter and say, okay, let's fix all the roads right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So there has to be some planning going on, just like it was with the roundabouts and Sprinkle Road. They've done a lot of the ancillary roads leading up to it. You want to have a nice, smooth transition.
Mm-hmm. As much as we might like to just wave the magic wand and have it all done, right? Representative Dave Maturen is here. We're back shortly on WBCK, 8:20 right now. $8:23 WBCK. Representative Dave Maturen is here. The eastern side of Kalamazoo County and southern portion of Calhoun County, essentially, is your district. And so we check in with you on a monthly basis. Someone with whom we check in fairly regularly, I suppose you could say a regional Democrat, is John Hoadley from Kalamazoo. And he was very vocal on social media immediately after this thing passed and talked about where this is all going to be coming from, this money, the existing money that we're going to use toward this, was concerned about what might get raided to pay for these projects. How do you react to that? I mean, this, we presume, are going to be part of the discussions that are going to come eventually.
Well, they eventually will, but I think a little bit of that's a little bit of a hyperbole. When you're in the minority, sometimes you get a chance to comment, but you don't get a chance to have input and
right.
participate in legislation. Really don't start phasing in general fund money till fiscal year 2019. So we've got a couple of years for the budget to grow without any kind of an impact, taking that money from the from roads from the general fund for roads. And, you know, the budget impact, who knows what the budget's going to be, you know, out in 2021
Right.
by the time the whole thing rolls in together. You know, right now, from the analysis, simply revenues and from the gas tax and credits, like the homestead property tax credit, is going to be $200 million to soften the blow for folks at the lower end of the income stream. So I think that's a positive thing. There's also an income tax reduction if, in fact, revenues exceed the rate of inflation. You know, several years ago, income tax was raised temporarily, but it's been permanent. So
yeah.
I think it's our intent to try to rein it in a bit.
Part of what he is asserting is that the richest are going to get the biggest break out of this. Now we're into the philosophical differences between parties, I suppose. But any thoughts you have on that?
Well, we have a flat income tax, so I mean, the more money the more money you pay, the more you're going to get back. But it's flat, sure. If you make more money and your reduction in the income tax is 0.5%, you're going to get more nominal dollars back, but it's the same percentage. So sure, you'll get more money, but you pay more taxes too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the old class warfare attitude. And with a flat income tax, it's really simple. Everybody pays the same rate.
Before you go, last when you were here, you were headed off to a conference that discussed the Great Lakes. How did that go?
No, it was a shuffle off to Buffalo.
Yeah.
And it was a very good conference. So we had folks from every state that surrounds the Great Lakes, folks from Ontario, Quebec, and the Canadian national government, and essentially focusing a lot on invasive species. And at this point, it looks like there are hopefully enough safeguards in place to keep the more dangerous two types of Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. They've already found the grass carp, but the bighead and the silver carp, they think they've got enough safeguards in place to keep it from there. Everybody's hoping, and there's a great effort internationally, not between the United States and Canada and all the surrounding states to try to make sure that's going to happen. But a very worthwhile conference. A lot of folks concerned about the Great Lakes, the freshest, greatest source of fresh water we've got in the world, and we want to keep it that way.
Any caterers there cooking up some Asian carp to see how it might taste or anything?
I didn't hear anything about that. I really didn't hear anything about let's catch them all and ship them back where they came from.
Right. At least try to put some salt and pepper on them or something and do something with them. We've heard some jokes about that, but if somebody could figure out a good recipe, maybe that'd be the way to go.
Might work, but I think total eradication is probably going to be pretty tough as far as they've gotten all the way up within miles of Lake Michigan. So.
Wow. Were there other issues on which there were focuses as it relates to the Great Lakes when you were there?
It was mostly invasive species, but we also had the issue of the folks in Ontario, one of the power plants wanting to locate some low-level radiation a mile in from Lake Huron and 2,000 feet down, and that was a point of discussion. Finally ended up with the motion was effectively to ban any low-level radiation storage depositories anywhere within the Great Lakes Basin, which I think maybe is maybe a little bit too optimistic thinking. I mean, I think folks need to realize we're not putting hot uranium rods down there,
right.
Radioactive rods. It's low-level, kind of like medical waste. I mean, gloves and things like that are used and compressed, and it's 2,000 feet down into bedrock. We'll see where that goes. Again, ours are recommendations, but we'll see where it ends up. So that certainly was an issue. And then there's always the issue of folks wanting to take our water and reverse a pipeline somewhere and pump it to some place that's dry. So.
Well, there's a few of those right now. Maybe the hurricanes help with some of those spots, but man, all right. Representative Dave Maturen, until next month, thank you.
My pleasure.